YouTube Live this morning. We have an interesting topic to talk about. I hope you will stay tuned so that we get to the bottom of it, of this topic that we are going to talk about today, because we are talking about the, the how to democratically ensure that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not return in 2027. That is the main topic of discussion. How to ensure that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not return in 2027. It's an issue that is no longer debatable because it appears there is a national consensus that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu shouldn't be allowed to return because he has failed the people of Nigeria. But it is a challenge that there is a national consensus, if you like, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not return in 2027. There is a national consensus that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not return in 2027. However, the challenge is, how is it going to be done? How is Tinubu going to be stopped? How is the APC going to be stopped? Why did I say that there is a national consensus that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should not return in 2027? The data is very bleak for him to be able to return, because democracy is about the welfare of the people. It is about consensus. It's about meeting the aspiration of the people. What we have here indicates seriously that there is a national consensus that he should not return. What is now in dispute is the strategy to ensure that he does not return. Because unless there is a formidable strategy, he may return against the wishes and expectations of majority of Nigerians. So that's what we're going to look at. Now let us look at why it is obvious that Tinubu cannot be able to return. The data available indicates the sorry state of Nigeria under his leadership. The data available indicates the sorry state of Nigeria under his leadership, whether it's in the area of economy or in the area of insecurity or national cohesion. Because under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria has faced severe economic deterioration that has been marked by soaring inflation, rising poverty, and unsustainable debt levels. Inflation has persisted above 20%, reaching 34.6% in November 2024, fueling the worst cost of living in Nigeria's history. So most families in Nigeria are feeling the pinch of Tinubu's mismanagement of the economy. And with more people being pushed to poverty because of the policies of the Tinubu administration, the future looks bleak for most Nigerians because rate, poverty rate keep on increasing under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because under his administration, poverty rates have climbed from 33.2% in 2020 to 47.2% in 2024, with projection of 13 million more people falling into poverty in 2025 due to ongoing inflation and lack of safety nets. Public debts has ballooned from 87.38 trillion in June 2023 to 144.67 trillion by December 2024, with debt servicing costs doubling to over 16 trillion naira in the 2024-2025 budget, consuming the resources needed for health, education, and infrastructure. So these policies, including fuel subsidy removal and naira devaluation, have triggered stagflation, stagnant growth combined with high inflation, leaving over 133 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty. So you can see that he has failed in the area of economy, and he has also failed in the area of insecurity, because insecurity has intensified under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with thousands killed and abducted despite increased budgetary expenditure. For instance, it was 1.25 trillion in 2023. Budgets increased from 1.25 trillion in 2023 to 4.91 trillion in 2025. So despite this huge expenditure, more people are still being killed in Nigeria. More people are still being killed in Nigeria. Amnesty International reported recently that more than 10,000 people are being killed by non-state actors since Tinubu took over. And there are data that are even higher than that in circulation, showing that in the area of insecurity, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also failed. In terms of national cohesion, Nigeria has never been as divided as they are today. Nigeria is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious society, but the division that was started under the late Muhammad Buhari administration has been widened by Tinubu administration because of his nepotistic appointments and the allocation of federal projects. And that has deepened the gap between the ethnic groups in Nigeria and created even religious division, whether we like it or not. You all are aware that in this country, before, when you are a Muslim and you are going for presidency, the common sense is to pick a Christian as your running mate. But Bola Ahmed Tinubu jettisoned that, and he ran on Muslim ticket, and he also ran on tribal sentiment, because you recall that he was one candidate that was very proud to say that it is 2023 is Yoruba turn, it is my turn. In other words, he believed in tribal politics, and nobody should be surprised that tribalism has expanded under his administration. So when you look at all this, you know that there is nothing that put him in a position that people will support him to return. However, you need a strategy. What are the strategies that the opposition can use against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Because getting him out requires a strategy. It is not something that you can be able to do without strategy. Because you have to realize that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is an establishment person. He knows how the system operates. He was able to surmount even internal opposition when he was not yet the president at the run-up to 2023. Even former President Muhammad Buhari didn't want him to be his successor, but he was able to maneuver his way and emerge the presidential candidate of the ruling APC. So if he could be able to maneuver his way and emerge the presidential candidate of the ruling party, you can bet that kicking him out in 2027 will be a difficult task unless a lot of strategy are taken up by the opposition. Now, we know that the opposition, they are having challenges. What are the challenges facing the opposition before we move into the strategies that could be used to defeat President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? The opposition are not yet united on what to do. Number one is that the opposition have not yet rallied around themselves to have the arrowhead who should lead the opposition against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There are two camps now in the opposition camp. One camp is the populist camp, where you have Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election. And then you have the establishment camp in the opposition, which is similar to Tinubu's camp, led by Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Now, these two camps will determine how to pursue the quest for Tinubu's regime to end in 2027. The old establishment camp, where Atiku Abubakar is leading in the opposition, wants to do things the old way. And that old way they want to do the things are part of the problems that the opposition is currently having. They want it to be done the way the PDP had been doing their things. They want it to be done the way the APC had been doing their things. In other words, they want the selection of the leader of the opposition to be done simply by the old style of the using money to be able to determine who emerge. Because of that, the result you are going to get if the opposition continue that way will mean that the opposition themselves are not going to be different from the government in power, because the process through which the candidate of the opposition will emerge will determine whether Nigerians are going to see it as a viable alternative to the ruling party. There is no debate that the ruling party has failed, that Tinubu has failed, but the process of his successor emerging is key for that candidate's sellability. Right now, the camp of Atiku Abubakar wants it to be done the old way. And that old way is the same way they use to destroy the PDP, which is literally dead now as a political opposition ahead of 2027. That is the same way they want to pursue the fight or the struggle to ensure that Tinubu does not return. They want to do it the old way. And that old way destroyed PDP. And if care is not taken, it's going to destroy the ADC, or the African Democratic Congress. So that's why there is a problem in the opposition now. How do we select the person that should be the arrowhead of the opposition to face Bola Ahmed Tinubu from a united front? Then you have the Peter Obi, the populist camp, where Peter Obi belongs, where Peter Obi is leading. This camp is motivated by hungry youths who have hunger for a new Nigeria, who are fed up with the old system, who are championing Peter Obi's clarion call for a new Nigeria. This group, they want fairness, justice, and equity to be the determinant of who should be able to face Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. That is what they are looking for. That is what they wanted. However, the other side don't seem to think that's the way to go. They want to do it the old way. The old way whereby after the primaries, you'll be hearing stories about dollar rain. Because if you know the history of presidential candidate emergence in Nigeria, it has always been characterized by a situation where the newspaper headline would talk about Naira rain, dollar rain, sorry, as Atiku emerged, dollar rain as Tinubu emerged. When Peter Obi emerged as presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023, there was no such headline, dollar rain as Peter Obi emerged as Labour Party. So Labour Party presidential candidate. So the issue is, how do you reconcile these two? The Peter Obi camp who want the primaries to be done in a different way. And what are the different ways that we are talking about here? The Peter Obi camp, they want a situation whereby, because of fairness, justice, and equity, the presidency should remain in southern Nigeria and not move back to northern Nigeria. After just 4 years of a Southerner becoming the president of Nigeria in the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. What they want is a categorical statement that will put zoning at the center of whatever is going to be done. Okay? They want zoning to be at the center. They want it to be spelled out where the presidency should come from. And the African Democratic Congress, which for now is the rallying party for the opposition, they are not forthcoming in that direction. They seem to be full dragging on how to choose a candidate, the zone that the presidential candidate will come from. And they have started the PDP style of saying that everybody should contest, that what they have is a level playing field that is open to everyone to contest, and that let the best emerge. That had always been a smoke screen for corruption in the primaries in Nigeria. That had been the smoke screen for corrupting the political system, and that is why the country had not been moving forward. The idea of saying let everybody contest is to put the situation under the hands of delegates who will now use it as an opportunity to cash out. And desperate political aspirants will now use their dollar to buy up delegates and claim that they have won in a democratic process. That is dangerous. That is no different from the ruling party, and that is not the kind of change that Nigerians want. What is important is for Nigerians to chart a new course, a new path. And that new path has to follow a process that is different from the establishment, different from the APC, different from other political parties. But first, you have to begin by having a transparent primaries. And before that, telling the world where the president is going to come from. To assume that the president can come from anywhere, all we are looking for is capacity, doesn't make sense. There is no part of this country that don't have people who have capacity. If the people were given the opportunity to choose, there is no geopolitical zone in Nigeria that you can zone the presidency of Nigeria, that if they want, the political class want the best from that zone, that cannot be able to produce a good presidential candidate. But what has been playing out is the money politics that has been destroying Nigeria's democracy. The populist camp where P2B belong is the best path you can follow if truly you want to change President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. You need a populist leader like P2B, somebody that can be able to draw out the voters without the voters expecting to be paid. Because if you have a situation where the opposition presidential candidate will emerge by giving dollars to delegates, it means that the opposition is banking on also using money to buy the voters, paying for the votes. And if you go by paying for the votes, the ruling party will be able to outspend whatever opposition has to offer. No matter how wealthy Atiku is, he cannot be able to outspend the ruling party in buying over the delegates, in buying over Nigerians, if it comes to getting the votes by money. Because if you get the votes by dollar in, how do you get the votes from the Nigerian public? Can you match the federal government of Nigeria under the control of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in raising money for Nigerian voters? If you are giving the voters 10,000, the APC, the ruling party, they can give 50,000. We know that vote buying is illegal, but it happens. So if we now, the change that we want in 2027 is going to be monetized, going to be based on money. The opposition, they have no hope for the opposition. They cannot be able to match the government of the day. Naira for naira, dollar for dollar, they cannot. So what is the only option? The only option is for you to have a populist candidate, a candidate that people will be campaigning for him without expecting to be paid. In fact, people can contribute money and do contribute money for him. And the only populist candidate in the opposition right now is Peter Obi. The APC was smart to use Buhari. Buhari doesn't have money to buy delegates. He didn't have money to buy delegates in 2014. He didn't have money to buy delegates. But those who wanted to change Jonathan knew that he was a populist candidate. He has mass appeal. And what you need is a candidate who has mass appeal. A candidate that people are ready to work for, hoping that he's going to change Nigeria, and are not demanding any money for that. That is the kind of candidate you need. That is the kind of candidate that can be able to motivate Nigerians to come out in their numbers to vote without expecting instant gratification in terms of money from the candidates or their political parties. That is what you need. You need a candidate with a mass appeal. Everything is not about money in politics. Money is important. But what is more important is somebody who has been perceived as being different. Somebody who has been seen to have the competency. Somebody who has been seen to be incorruptible. So that when you are marketing him, at least you are marketing him that he is different from the corrupt system that you want to change. That is the truth. Because if you look at it generally, on what basis is Atiku Abubakar better than Tinubu? On what ground? What is the ground that you're going to market Atiku that is better than Tinubu? You are marketing him just because he's a northerner. Is that why that's his only selling point? He's a northerner. Okay, North has population. Let's change Tinubu. That's basically it. How has Atiku been tested before? Has he been tested? Has he held any executive position? He was elected governor of Adamawa State. He didn't serve. So his capacity would have been tested, what he was able to make out of Adamawa. He was vice president. So what? Vice president are like spare tires. Forget about all these stories about how he was part of the success story of Obasanjo. Now we know how that ended. So what is it that they will use in assessing Atiku Abubakar? I don't see much, except that he is a northerner. So let the North take the power from Tinubu. That to me is a very defeatist process. This is where we're going to end this live chat for today. We are going to continue on this topic because we're going to look at it. Now, I dwell mostly on the problems that is bedeviling the opposition in forming a united front. In the next live that I'm going to do, I'm going to concentrate on the strategies that will see to the defeat of the APC if followed logically as I will present it. Thank you for being part of this live, and God bless you and yours. And don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to share this video, because when you like it, Google will rank it high and recommend it for more people. Thank you, and God bless you and yours.